we're just hours away from the Democrats' takeover of the House, with the clock ticking to the start of day 13 of the partial government shutdown. Hours away from a whole new reality for this president when Nancy Pelosi officially takes the reins. But the speaker-to-be is wasting no time flexing her muscles over President Trump's pet project, telling NBC she'll give, quote, nothing for the wall, and saying this after congressional leaders met with the president about the shutdown behind closed doors in the White House Situation Room.
We're asking the president to open up government. We are giving him a Republican path to do that. Why would he not do it? Why would he not do it?
Why? Simple. A source telling CNN that Senator Chuck Schumer asked the president not once, not twice, but 3 times to give him just one good reason that he won't take the Democrats' offer. The president's response, quote, I would look foolish if I did that. That should probably be the least of this president's worries. Like I said, the clock is ticking. As of tomorrow, his party will no longer have total control of the government. He will no longer have a majority in the House. And Democrats are salivating at the idea that they could eat his lunch. He can't even count on Senate Republicans, like new Senator Mitt Romney, who told our very own Jake Tapper this tonight.
After he was elected president, it was very much my hope that he would rise to the occasion, rise to the mantle of the office. I don't think he's followed through on that front the way he's followed through on some of his other promises.
In a matter of hours, things are going to get real for this president, who said today that he'll keep the government shut down for as long as it takes, who shocked his own military and our allies with his sudden announcement of a troop withdrawal from Syria, and who is facing some 17 investigations, 17, into pretty much every aspect of his life, from his campaign to his administration to his businesses. And with all of that looming, the president held one of his televised cabinet meetings today. You got to look at the pictures from that meeting because they pretty much tell the story of this administration, okay? True story here. Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan, acting. Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, acting. Acting EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler. Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. Acting Interior Secretary David Bernhardt, who you probably won't be surprised to learn is an ex-oil lobbyist. And the president? Well, in a way, he's acting too. Acting like some kind of action hero. Did you guys see this? With some sort of Game of Thrones style poster prominently displayed on the table. Acting like a tough guy, acting. By the way, no one in the room bothered to explain exactly why the poster was there. Is this like a movie or something that's coming soon? But seriously though, this is no game. This is the eve of the day that could change everything for this president. But he's doing what he's been doing since day one. Making false statements, misleading claims, downright lying. Again and again and again. The biggest whopper of all may have been this that he told about the defense secretary, the former defense secretary James Mattis, who resigned last month.
I wish him well. I hope he does well. But as you know, President Obama fired him, and essentially so did I.
There's no essentially about it. Mattis was not fired, okay? He wasn't fired, no matter how many times this president says that. He quit on December 20th in a letter that made his feelings about this president's policies pretty clear. Right now, let me quote from that letter, okay? So he says here, he says, quote, my views on treating allies with respect and also being clear-eyed about both malign actors and strategic competitors are strongly held and informed by over 4 decades of immersion in these issues. Because you have the right to have a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours and these and other subjects. I believe it is right for me to step down from my position. I believe it is right for me to step down from my position. Was there a quote about it essentially fired? Step down. That's not being fired, no matter what the president claims. And speaking of the president's foreign policy, there is this heaping helping of word salad.
Russia used to be the Soviet Union. Afghanistan made it Russia because they went bankrupt fighting in Afghanistan, Russia. The reason Russia was in Afghanistan was because terrorists were going into Russia. They were right to be there. The problem is it was a tough fight. And literally they went bankrupt. They went into being called Russia again as opposed to the Soviet Union. You know, a lot of these places you're reading about now are no longer part of Russia because of Afghanistan.
I hope you have some time here because there's a lot to unpack about what he just said. The Soviet Union did not literally go bankrupt. The economy collapsed, which is not the same as going bankrupt. Hat tip to our friends at the Washington Post for that one. Afghanistan may have been a part of that, but it certainly didn't cause the Soviet economy to collapse. And as for the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the United States government says was all about keeping a friendly socialist government on its border, okay? But wait, there's more.
I think I would have been a good general, but who knows?
Well, to be a general, you'd have to be in the military. Sorry. You'd have to be in the military if you want to be a general, and a good one. So I remind you, it was just last week that the daughters of a Queens doctor said that he had diagnosed Donald Trump with bone spurs to help him avoid the Vietnam draft as a favor to Trump's father. You have to be in the military to be a general. And just listen to what the president says about Bashar al-Assad's brutal war on his own people, a war that kills so many that the UN says it's virtually impossible to come up with an accurate death toll.
Syria was lost long ago. It was lost long ago. And besides that, I don't know what, we're talking about sand and death. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, you know, vast wealth.
Well, I guess it should be no surprise that vast wealth appears to be the deciding factor for President Trump. To this day, he has refused to condemn Saudi Arabia for the brutal murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The president also had a lot to say about his promised wall. But this is mind-blowing.
Look, when they say the wall's immoral, well, then you got to do something about the Vatican, because the Vatican has the biggest wall of them all.
Yes, there is a wall around the Vatican, which has absolutely nothing to do with a wall on our southern border. And by the way, a whole lot of Vatican City is entirely open to the public, wall or no wall. And listen to what President Trump says about the executive order by President Obama creating DACA.
If the Supreme Court rules that President Obama was wrong, which they should, because, by the way, if he was right, then I've been given tremendous power. Can you imagine me having that power? Wouldn't that be scary? Right?
Right? That would be scary. The president also had this to say about Christmas when he says he was home alone in the White House.
I was here on Christmas evening. I was all by myself in the White House. It's a big, big house, except for all the guys out on the lawn with machine guns, nicest machine guns ever. But I was there all alone with the machine gunners, and I felt very safe.
All alone. Now let me think who else was at the White House on Christmas evening. Oh yeah, well, Melania Trump, the First Lady, who flew with the president to Iraq. But all those, let's call them misstatements, they're kind of besides the point. Because like I said, the clock is ticking. In just a few hours, this president is going to wake up to a whole new reality. A world where he can't just threaten Congress into giving him what he wants. That's going to be a tough one for him.